What is up? Welcome back to the channel. I want to do something a little different, kind of a weird type video, but I think it'll help explain kind of my interests a little bit better. It'll show some of the toys that I have. It won't be another card video because I know not everybody's into the cards and stuff, and I want this to be kind of an overarching toy slash collectible type channel. So I wanted to do something about action figures, something a little different, something a little bit out of the ordinary maybe. So what I have today is I have, I don't know, about 7 or 8 figures here with me, but these are all toys or action figures, whatever that may be, that are extremely special and important to me. I don't know the value of any of these. I don't have any clue as to what that is in regards to any of these. That isn't the reason for having any of these. All of these have some sort of special story, some sort of meaningful reason that they're part of my collection. And these are also the toys that will absolutely never leave my collection. So what I mean by that is, if for whatever reason there's some downturn on my luck or whatever that looks like, and I have to start selling things to be able to provide for my family, these things would not be part of that. These are outside of toys. These are outside of collectibles. These are, to me, these are photographs. These are like family memories, things like that, that like you would never sell, or you couldn't sell really, family photos. That's what these are to me. So don't want to drag on forever. Some of these are a little bit weird, don't get me wrong. Like, they're not your everyday kind of collectibles, if you will. But you'll kind of see what they are, and you'll see why they're special to me. I'll give a brief explanation. This might be a touch longer of a video. I know all my videos are long. I try to keep them shorter, but I talk too much. So, like I said, I'll give a story behind them. I'll give you a little history on why they are so important, or why they are so special to me. And then just show you the toy and then go from there. But yeah, so without further ado, I'm gonna get started. This first 1/2 kind of, you'll see why it's kind of 2, but this is one that I've had probably 80% of my life. I've had it for a long time. It's been basically at every home I've ever owned, or ever lived in, I should say, from the time I lived with my parents. So it's kind of weird, just throwing that out there. It's a little creepy, but this is a clown, pink clown. It's a wind-up clown. So you wind it, plays the music. I don't know if you can hear that or not. It does still work, so the music still plays. But this is a I love you clown. It's kind of like a clown that would have come like with some flowers that you would send to like a nursing home or a funeral. And that's where it came from, actually. So the reason this is so important to me is this clown came from my great-grandma. It was actually a gift to her. It sat in her nursing home room, you know, when she was towards the end of her life. Anytime I would go and visit, I was just a really little kid at this point. This was something that I could play with. Obviously, there's not a lot of toys in a nursing home. So this was something that I could play with. And when she did pass away, my grandma, her daughter, obviously, but my grandma gave this to me, and I've had it ever since. So, my great-grandma, who I didn't know, obviously, I didn't have a huge relationship with her because I was so young when she passed away, but more importantly, my grandma, who gave this to me, who is like one of my favorite all-time people ever, is why this is important to me, why it will never leave. Like I said, it's been in basically every home, apartment, whatever I've ever lived in. And then the hat on top is actually a baby hat that my dad bought for me when I was just born, essentially. Really young, newborn, whatever. And it's always just lived right on top of the clown. The grandma that gave me this is the mom of the dad that bought the hat. So they kind of go together. Yeah, so that's the first one. Like I said, this might be long because I like to talk, especially about things that are important to me and really special, so I apologize if it gets long, but that's the first one. This is also the weirdest one probably, so it'll get a little more normal after this. Anyways, so that's the first one. The second one is another one from a family member that's passed away. That's makes it really kind of important or special, whatever you want to call it. But this is a, you know, Native American girl doll, basically. Nothing too crazy about it. It's just a hollow plastic doll. The reason this is special is I had an uncle who was very big into, you know, Native American history, Native American culture, things like that. He did a lot of reenactments. He could make arrowheads. He could make all that kind of stuff that the Native Americans, you know, would have made at the time. But I went to and did a lot of that stuff with him. And we got this at one point at one of those shows that we went to. I don't remember exactly which one, but she has pretty much always represented that time in my life when I was doing those kind of things with him. And when we were spending that time together, I spent a lot of hours and a lot of weekends with him, if, you know, just hanging out at his house or with him and or doing Native American reenactments. So she's kind of become that toy memory that reminds me of that time. Like I said, a lot of these toys are essentially my family photos. They remind me of a person. They remind me of a time. So, like I said, this little plastic Indian, you know, Native American doll isn't going to be worth any money, isn't going to be anything special to anybody else that were to come and see my toy collection or my toy building. But to me, it brings back all of those memories with him, who was a very important person, especially when I was growing up, going through a, you know, rough patch in a lot of kids' lives, if that makes any sense. But so yeah, that's where she represents, or what she represents. So next, we'll get into some wrestling figures here. Wrestling is my biggest passion. That's what I have the most of when it comes to toys. I mean, you can see a lot of them back here. But this is one that's been with me forever, essentially. This is Sting. This is a WCW Galoob wrestling figure. This Sting essentially represents my favorite action figure line. So this line of action figures is the number one top, like, favorite action figure line to own, to play with, to collect, whatever you want to say. This is the one that is my favorite. This is also a line of action figures that I've completed. I have every figure that WCW Galoob ever made. So that's a big deal. That's another big reason it's special. This is a figure that my older brother had essentially my whole life. So anytime I got to go play with his toys, he has a different dad, so he lived in a different home. So it wasn't every day that I got to see this. So that was a huge part of why this is a figure that's remembered basically for me for always. I mean, anytime I talk about wrestling figures, this is a figure that comes up. This is a line of figures that come up because of how special it was for me to get to play with these. It wasn't an everyday thing. I don't know how many more times I can say that, I guess. This is not the exact one that we had when we were kids. This is a newer one that I bought when I was completing out my collection. The one we had as kids was beat to crap. My brother even tried to repaint, you know, some of his face and some of his pants because he was so worn down. And the paint was so worn off of him. So that's why I got a nicer one to display out here with my collection. I do still have that original one somewhere. I feel like my son probably has it, and it's probably in his toy box with all his stuff, but it is around here somewhere. And whenever it does resurface, that will definitely be coming out here with all of this memory stuff. This one sits in the collection. Right behind me here actually are these figures. These are all the WCW Galoobs right here. That's the entire line of figures right there. I will do a video on that at some point because, like I said, it's my favorite toy line of all time. So I'll do a video on all of them, and we'll talk about all the figures. We'll go through the whole collection, things like that. this is just the most memorable one for me. This blue tights Sting. I say blue tights because there's multiple Stings with different colored tights and everything. So the blue tights Sting is what, you know, most people would know it. If that's what you said, they would know that's what you're talking about. But this one I also do have the belt for. All of these WCW Galoob figures did come with the WCW belt. I don't have the belt for every single figure. I'm not super worried about it. Accessories isn't a huge thing to me in collecting. I know it's a big deal to some people, but if I can get the belts and I can get them for cheap, I get them and put them on the figure. But again, I'm just an average dude. I don't have a ton of money. So like, if I can save the money on these belts and buy a different figure, that's where I think, that's what makes more sense to me, I should say. But anyways, yes, that's the Sting, WCW Galoob Sting. Pretty much my childhood in a nutshell right here. But yep. All right. So from one wrestling figure to a next, this is a WWF Just Toys Bend-Em. So this is like a stretchy Bend-Em, you know, rubber guy. This is Doink the Clown, and this is the very first wrestling figure I ever owned. This is the exact one. I've had this since I was, I don't even know how old I was when I got this, 3 maybe. I'm not sure. But this is the very first wrestling figure ever. This is the exact one that I've had since I was a kid. So that's why it's special to me. Again, my childhood in a nutshell right here. As a kid, I had a ton of these WWF Bend-Ems. I'm working on, as an adult, completing this collection. It's a very big collection, and there's some very heavy hitter, expensive ones in that collection. So I haven't dove in too deep because for me, I like to complete full sets. So if I know there's a figure that's $500 or $600 and I don't know that I'll ever get it, it's hard for me to try to really dive in on it. But this is definitely one that will forever stay in my collection. A little bit more of a tidbit that kind of makes this one special too. This is my first ever wrestling figure. And as soon as me and my wife found out we were having a son for my first child, I purchased one of these on eBay for him. So it is also his first wrestling figure as well. Not this one, obviously. I bought him a new one. It's in box still. It's still in the packaging. And maybe someday me and him can open it together and play with it. But as of now, this is his first WWF action figure, or wrestling figure in general, not just WWF, in general wrestling figure. This is his first as well. So that's why this one is super special. And that's another reason this one will never leave, because like I said, it's very hard for toy collectors to be able to say they have their first ever of something that's been so important to their childhood, to their life, to their adulthood, everything. I mean, wrestling is a huge part of my life because I've been a fan for so long. So to be able to say I still have the very first one, and it's actually not in bad shape. I haven't looked at this like super closely like this in a long time, but like seeing it in the video here, it's not terrible for something that I got when I was like I said, 3 or something. So like it actually looks pretty good. But yeah, that's Doink the Clown. So move on to a different one. This one's kind of weird. I don't know why I find this so special for some reason. This is the Blue Blazer. As far as I know, this is maybe the only Blue Blazer figure to ever come out. And if anybody's familiar with the Blue Blazer or whatever, the man under the mask is Owen Hart. I'm not going to get into that story. If you want to Google it, you can. It's super easy to find the story. But he did die at a professional wrestling event. I'm not going to go any further into it, but he did pass away in an unfortunate accident. So after this, there wasn't really many more figures that came out. This is towards the end of his life and his career. So there isn't too many more figures of Owen that came out after this, if any. I'd have to look into that more. This could be the last one. I'm not positive, but it's definitely towards the end if it isn't the very last one. And I've grown to love Owen so much more over the years. I was pretty young when he did pass away, but I did have a tremendous amount of respect and love for him then. But now going back and watching a lot of that stuff, he's probably in the top 10 of my favorite wrestlers of all time. And to have this figure representing the character that he did pass away, and it's kind of weird. And like I said, I don't know why this is so special. It's not like it's the first, it's not like it's the only Owen Hart figure that I own. But for some reason, I always find myself displaying this with all my special stuff. All of the stuff you're seeing is like one shelf in my collection. I keep it all together. And I always find myself putting this figure with those ones. I'm not really sure why. Like I said, I don't know if it's just because of the weirdness and like the tragedy to his life. I don't know. But he's definitely a guy that I respect tremendously when it comes to what he did for the wrestling business. So I don't find it bad that I like to display this figure with my special things, but it is one that's probably the least kind of memorable, or at least kind of special when it comes to like having a good story as to why I have it. But I am very, very excited that I do have this in my collection. I also have a mint on card one, meaning it's brand new in package, if you didn't know what that meant. I have one of these on card, like still in the box, sealed, all that jazz as well. But yeah, so that's the Blue Blazer. Now we'll get into something a little different. We'll move out of that wrestling space for a second. There's one more wrestling figure to talk about, but it's not really, it's a little different. It's not really a wrestling figure, I would say, but I then have a He-Man Strider figure. So this is one of the more recent figures that that's part of this set here. This might actually be the newest figure in this set, if I'm being honest. I think it is. This is Strider from He-Man, and this is kind of special to me, or important to me, because somebody that I work with gave this to me. His name's Jason. He's actually the guy in the picture on my profile or whatever, but he got this for me. And when anybody gets me toys or action figures or things that go in my collection, it's super special to me as it is. But when it's somebody kind of as important as he has been in my life over the last couple of years, he was my boss for a while. He was my peer for a while. He's my boss again now. But he's just been a big part of my development, you know, as a worker, or whatever you want to call it. Everybody has a boss that they respect tremendously. But for him to gift me this, and to gift me this for not even, I mean, it wasn't for Christmas. It wasn't a holiday. Like, he just got this for me one day when he knew he was coming to see me. He brought this with him. So, like, the thought that he had, I don't know. The respect I have for him is tremendous, and the fact that he thought enough to get me an action figure was really cool. So that's the biggest reason that this one will never leave my collection. I was never a huge He-Man fan. He-Man was really big and popular before I was born. It was kind of towards the tail end, I think, or so when I was born, but I was super stoked to get this He-Man figure. And for the most part, anytime somebody gets me something or gifts me a figure, it stays on display in my collection. Even if I move on from that collection, or I decide to box it up and you know, store it in my attic, whatever that looks like, for the most part, if you gave it to me or a friend gifted it to me or whatever that is, I try to keep it on display. Not all of those are displayed here, of course. So like, there's a lot of other gifts that people have given me that won't be talked about in this video. That doesn't mean they're not special. That doesn't mean I don't appreciate them tremendously. And I do display, like I said, I think, as far as I know, pretty much every gift that I've been given in the last 5 to 7 years since I've really been into toy collecting is out here and displayed. So this one just happens to be from an individual that's been super important to me over the last 5 years, whatever it's been. So that's why it gets that special bump into the special category, if you will. So, all right, let's go into something kind of weird. Yeah, it's a little different, but this is a Barbie, as you can see. This was gifted to me from my wife, and it's an interesting Barbie. So this Barbie is actually called Growing Up Skipper. So it's not Barbie herself, it's her friend Skipper, or whatever she is. I don't know if they're friends. I have no idea. I don't know the Barbie story. But let's see if I can get this to work here. Let me see. Doing this live is probably not the best idea. Yeah, so the stand that she's on kind of makes it a little difficult. But anyways, the idea is you twist the arm here like so, and whoops. If you can see right there, so like you'll see her body start to extend and her breasts start to come out is the gimmick of this figure. So that's what she does. Now I know that's kind of weird, to be honest, for a child's toy or a toy aimed at little girls. But the story behind this, so the Barbie company, I'm going to tell you this the best I can. I don't know if it's going to be 100% accurate. I'll put that out there. But the Barbie company had some type of, they were on a down spiral or something where they were going through a rough time. They did some reorganizing and they ended up with like an all-male creative team or something to that effect. And this was one of the dolls or Barbies that they greenlit and they produced and put out. That was all the decision of a man deciding for girls' toys. And this flopped tremendously. Most parents were offended. Most mothers did not like this to be something that their daughters were playing with, especially young daughters that weren't even kind of at this stage of their life. So this Barbie did not do well. The men were moved on from very quickly, and it was back to the women being in charge of the Barbie line. But I mentioned it before in one of my other videos that the stories are really, really cool to me. And the toy stories about things like this are really, really cool. So like, it's not about the fact that her boobs grow and like that. That's weird. The story behind it is what's really cool and why I appreciate this in my collection. On top of the fact that then once I learned that story and told my wife that story, she thought it was, she went out and bought this for me because she knew I liked the story and was into it. So like, it was really cool that she did that for me after I was just like excited to tell her this story about that I learned this, about this Skipper doll. So that was really cool of her to do. And that was why this one will forever be in my collection, a little piece of toy history. That's the biggest thing I should say, toy history right here. Like, this is a big part of the history of Barbie, where like they were down and out, they did this and it got even worse, and they realized that they really needed to fix some things. So, yeah, I'd say that's growing up, Skipper. So, I believe we're down to the last two, which is good because we're getting long here. This is the longest video I've done so far. I apologize for that, but the last two, they kind of go together. They're from the same person, and it kind of goes back to the same thing I was saying with the Stridor from He-Man, that when people gift me things, it's super important to me, and I really, really appreciate that. So I like to always have them and keep them on display. But this is a Braun Strowman figure. And as you can see, my name is there. It's kind of hard to see because of the camera, but this is a Braun Strowman figure. This was something that we sold where I work. I work at a retail location, and this is something that we sold in that store. And one of the guys that I work with thought it would be funny because of the beard and the scraggy hair if he put my name on it, and then I just walked by and happened to see it at one point. So that's what he did. He played a little prank on me, if you will. After he did this, he bought it for me because obviously he put the sticker on it and stuff, and he didn't want to, get in trouble or anything for, messing up product or whatever. But, so that's why I have this one. It did unfortunately fall off the card. My wife was out here helping me do stuff, and she accidentally dropped it, and it popped off. So it is kind of open now, but I'm going to hopefully just try to fix it and glue it back up. Because again, it's not something I'm ever trying to sell or make money off of. It's all about the prank and the little story that goes with it. It's cool that it has my name on it. And like I said, he does have, if the slightest resemblance to me, it's kind of there. But cool little story from a guy that I love to work with and I've worked with for a long time. So super excited to have that one in my collection of stuff that will never leave me. So last but not least, same guy gave me this actually, and he was a groomsman in my wedding, and this was kind of his like wedding gift to me. This is a PSA 10 Gem Mint first edition Team Rocket Meowth. Meowth is my favorite Pokemon of all time. I don't know if it's because he's the only one that really talks or what the deal is, but I've always loved Meowth. I've always thought he was hilarious in the cartoons. I don't know. I just love this little cat, and he knew that, so he got me this Gem Mint 10 as a wedding gift, being one of my groomsmen. So like I said, this is the first actual PSA card I ever owned as well. So first PSA card I ever owned. I didn't grade it myself, obviously. He bought it already graded, and gifted it to me. But this is the first PSA card. This is my first Gem Mint 10. My favorite Pokemon of all time, from a gentleman that's, like I said, I love to work with him. He was a groomsman in my wedding. That's how much I like him. So super stoked about this. I really want to get more graded Meowths. I'd love to, you know, by the day I die, have a full graded set of Meowth cards, just because Meowth is my favorite Pokemon. But that's a pipe dream. A lot of work would go into that, a lot of time, a lot of money. But this is the start of that. So small step towards a bigger dream, and it all started with that one person. I'll leave him nameless just in case he doesn't want me to put that out there, but he knows who he is, and he knows how special that this is to me. So other than that, that's everything I have. There's a ton of other stuff that's special to me. There's a ton of other stuff that's super important. If anybody watches this that knows they gave me something, or knows that I have something that they think is cool, or I thought was whatever, know that it is important to me still. If it is in this building, it's important to me. Know that. Know I appreciated you gifting it to me, and know that it will always be on display out here. Don't get offended, or don't feel offended if I didn't talk about it in this video. It'll get talked about in a video, I'm sure, because of it being out here. So keep that in mind. Other than that, I'm going to sign off because this is getting really long. And I don't want all my videos to be ridiculously long, because I know they've all ran really long. But I hope everybody enjoyed a little look into my life, the important toys and things in my life, and why they're special to me. And I will catch you in the next one.